everybody. Welcome to Talking Heartland. This is the show where we are looking back at past seasons of Heartland, and we are in season 7, episodes 4 through 6. This can be a lot of fun to talk about some, I think, pretty good episodes. I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone.
Yes, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. It's a busy time, but it's been a good week, and we were very excited because we had a exciting development in the world of Talking Heartland where we got a shout out from the official Heartland blog. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
sort of, because Rachel and I have like a time difference, I saw the blog post pop up, and normally I sort of scroll through them and just to sort of see some, like, especially if it's like a behind the scenes sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I clicked on it just to see if there was like people that I should follow, like within the Heartland fandom, and I saw Hallmarkies, and I was like, oh my god! And I didn't like send it to you right away because I was like, oh, maybe Rachel already knows about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously we've got a time difference, so I waited until the morning, and then I was like, yeah, she probably doesn't know.
Yeah, I had not heard about it till you sent it to me, and then it was so exciting. They said it's on a post where they are talking about these are a shout out to the Heartland fan accounts, and they have us as one of the first ones they list, which was really cool.
Yeah,
And they said this isn't exclusively a Heartland account, but they produce a Heartland podcast called Talking Heartland that you won't want to miss. So that was pretty cool.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Hopefully some new listeners
Yes.
might come
So
over.
if you saw that, welcome.
I don't think
And
there's, yeah.
and, and we're happy to have you, and we're grateful. So thank you so much for that shout out. We've been having a lot of fun and talking Heartland, and we'll continue to do so. So yeah, that was really cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So all right. Well, we are in season 7, episode 4 through 6, and it starts out with the penny drops is the first episode, and this is Mallory has some tough decisions ahead. She wants to become the new manager of Maggie's, yet Jake tells her he's going to Paris and wants her to come along for the ride. So this is our goodbye episode for Mallory. She does come back, I think, for 3 episodes in 2017, but for her as a regular, certainly this is her goodbye episode. And what overall did you think about it?
I liked it. I wanted to love it.
Mm,
And it wasn't actually until I'd finished the episode and I realized, oh, she's like gone, that I realized I wanted so much more from the episode. Like the fact that she was part of the Heartland family. And I realized that we had to sort of wrap up the whole Maggie's thing. But the fact that we didn't see her at Heartland, we didn't see her with Amy, we didn't get a goodbye with Mallory and Copper. Like, that's so disappointing to
that's
me.
true.
But there was a lot of things I liked about the episode. And let's say I did enjoy it. There was just a couple of little things, like I feel like Mallory should have gotten, like, I don't know, like 80% of the episode.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about Copper. I mean, it's sort of weird to have a character like this leave 4 episodes into the season. Like it feels like the kind of thing that you do for a finale. It's a little strange to have such a major character. But
Hmm.
I I did think that the ending with the signs and her looking out, that was very sweet.
Yeah, that was good. I'm so glad they did that, because if they hadn't, I would have been even more disappointed.
Hmm. Yeah, and I yeah, we'll talk more about the details, but yeah, her and Jake, and there was that nice scene between her and Ty that was sweet.
Yeah, I love
Uh,
that.
so overall, I enjoyed it, but yeah, I I can see that it would have maybe been nice for her and Jack and the whole group to have sort of a scene at Heartline Ranch. I wonder why they didn't do
It'd
that
been
the
nice if they had, like, one last dinner or something.
Mhm. Yeah, that would have been good. One thing I wanted to mention is we have some incredible comments over our when we post our YouTube video version of this podcast. And we have a bunch of people, but one really great commenter is the real TC. And she gave a great comment from last week. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, and she was just explaining a little bit more about what happened, why there was that dedication last week. You remember? Where they dedicated to the
Yes.
town of High River. And she said because of course High River is the town that uh, is Hudson for the show
Mhm.
where they film it. And she said the entire town had to be evacuated due to unprecedented flooding in 2013. And it says the Maggie's Diner set, which was once an actual store, is a real permanent structure in downtown High River, was underwater and completely unusable for much of season 7. D- And then she shared some articles and it said since High River doubles for the fictional town of Hudson, this meant quite a lot of plot lines had to be adjusted for season 7. The cast and crew was put on a fan event that summer to raise funds for flood relief, which was attended by approximately 1,000 fans. We got to tour the indoor set in Calgary, and the main cast had a Q&A. At this time, we were all on tender hooks because Sean Johnson was nowhere to be seen when the rest of the cast took the stage. Of course, many of us could not really believe Jack could be dead after that upsetting cliffhanger at the end of season 6. So Johnson's absence was concerning. Thankfully, he did show up partway through the Q&A, which of course brought a great deal of relief. And so anyway, she goes on to talk about some different things. But I thought that was interesting. And that may explain some of the maybe some choices this season might feel a little weird or what are they doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I always, like, after, like, the episode sort of dropped on Thursday, I always wait until the weekend, and then I go look at the comments just because I know I'm gonna get, like, so much more information,
Yeah.
like, behind the scenes information, like, stuff that I just would not know and not even
Yeah.
know where to look to find, because we are, like, in, like, earlier seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, we really, really appreciate the comments because we make no bones about being new to this series. And, we're watching it from that perspective of people. This is our first time going through it, as opposed to many of you listeners who know the ins and outs and the details and everything. And so you can help teach us, which we really appreciate.
I try to sort of stay very not very spoiler free, but as spoiler free as
Hmm.
I can. I
Hmm.
mean, I
Yeah.
know sort of big things that have happened and will happen, but
Yeah.
I don't know how they play out, and that's sort of why I don't go sort of researching because I don't want to see anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. So we start out with this plot line that the you have the sheep that are driving Amy crazy. She's trying to work with the horses, and these sheep keep coming out of their pen. And I think it seems like aren't there some like land at Heartland Ranch that they could have? Like, why did the sheep need to
Yeah,
be in that tiny little pen? That's what I wondered.
yeah, I think we've mentioned that before because that is where Jack's trucks were. So they were just
Yeah,
on that little bit of land. But yeah, there's like loads of land on Heartland in terms of like where you could put like a small flock of sheep.
right. And I guess that in the world of ranchers, sheep are not good. Like, I had no idea until this plot line that, like, they're seen as the sort of nuisance, like, oh, what are you
Especially when
she
one wants them and one doesn't.
yeah. They're bothering Amy, and so that means that obviously they have to go because she rules the roost there at Heartland Ranch, and she has this cutting horse, Bobby
Mm,
Jean, that we've seen before, right?
I think so, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a foal, Shiloh, and she has to wean the foal,
Mhm.
but the sheep kept messing everything up. And I feel like we must have seen Hoagie horse before, but I thought that was so cute in this whole storyline with Hoagie horse and Shiloh, their like little bond. It was cute.
It was so cute. It was such a, like, a good way to do this storyline because, like, it's such a hard thing, even as, like, a sweet, like, a thing that needs to happen. Like, they
Uh-huh.
need to separate them, but, like, giving them a friend is such a, like, a cute way to do it.
Yeah.
Um, because, like, if they should just had to, like, be a bit tough love about it would have not been as fun to watch.
Yeah, it reminded me of like Sugarfoot,
Yeah, yeah,
being the friend, with that kind of unruly horse. That was cute.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Mhm. And so then you have Lou's friend Nicole coming for a trip at the Dude Ranch, and Lou's trying to get everything ready, but things look pretty bad in the ranch, and uh, the she calls. She doesn't realize that she's there, and she calls her friend a Park Avenue princess.
Oh, Lou.
But well, what did you think of this friend, Nicole? Have we seen her? Was she on in the group that came
Yeah, that's what I was
from work?
thinking. Yeah, and I'm trying to pull up IMDb just to, like, make sure. Because we've had so many of Lou's, like, friends drop in and drop out. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was just it went an interesting way. I didn't expect it to, like, go the way of her, like, deciding to stay or deciding to pick up a life in Heartland, and give up her job. So it's definitely interesting. I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, she is, according to IMDb, she was on Corporate Cowgirls, so she was on that episode.
Right, right. So
I
yeah, so that's interesting that, like, she knows what to expect then. So the idea that she's running about trying to, like, get things ready when she's been there before, she sort of knows the deal at this point.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, it is pretty rude of Lou to call her a Park Avenue princess like that. But so I could see why she would be a little irritated with that. But yeah, that
I mean, it took
this is
Lou sort of a while to sort of adjust back into Heartland, so
mhm.
I don't think she can only judge anyone.
Yeah, and it's not like when you're staying, we'll talk about this later, but when you're staying at a place like this, you aren't uh you're not staying at a Marriott. Like this is like your expectations need to be different
Yeah.
than when you're staying at some place that corporate like that. It's just a different experience.
Mhm. I mean, it is an experience that you're paying for, isn't it? It's like a cowboy experience that you're really paying for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if
Like
you
the
wanted a
lady.
hotel, then pay for a
Yeah.
hotel.
Right, exactly. And so then we have Mallory is upset about not getting hired as the manager. Uh, and it really doesn't make any sense why Lou wouldn't hire her as
Mhm,
the manager. It, I don't know. Like I guess she just still sees Mallory as a child or what?
mhm.
Because why wouldn't you want somebody that's basically family to
Yeah.
run you? I don't know. That didn't really make much sense.
Yeah. Unless this is sort of what they were going for in terms of, like, a goodbye for Mallory. wrapping it all up in this job. Because
Mhm.
that's the only way it would sort of make sense. Because yeah, I mean, Soraya did the job for years. She trained Mallory, so yeah, it doesn't make sense that, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
sure like Lou had jobs like that when she was Mallory's age as well. So
Yeah, so you think she would, I don't know, you think she would be supportive. It just, she just needed to be a bit of a brat for the plot to work. Otherwise, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense why she
mhm,
wouldn't have been supportive for Mallory.
yeah.
And I mean, do you think that it's a good time for Mallory to kind of, do you feel like her character is have grown all that she like, do you think it's a good time for her character to leave the show? Or do you think there's stuff left that we could have done more with?
Um, it feels like they want a younger character.
Mhm.
And that's why they brought in Georgie.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
they need that. I think they need that for the audience, and they also need it for like a character like Jack. I don't think it's particularly fair on Mallory because I do feel like there is a lot more there. But then what it is that sort of thing of when you have a character that's that age, how do you get them to sort of stay in their hometown?
Mhm.
Um, so unless she has like, aspirations the way that Georgie does in terms of like working with horses, then I don't see her sort
Yeah.
of staying in Hudson and Heartland. So yeah, it's sad to see her going, especially when some storylines are a little shortchanged. Like it feels like Mallory and Jake was sort of wasted. Like there was so much they could have done, and instead they sort of had them be back and forth, or Mallory just not saying anything for episodes.
Yeah.
And it does sort of feel like Mallory has been in the background for most of last season. Um,
Mhm. It does feel
yeah,
like, why did we waste our time with other relationships with Mallory, like Mallory and I can't think of his name, the redheaded
yeah, that was
kid, like,
ridiculous.
why did we
That
waste
should
time with
have,
that?
yeah, that should have all been time to like build up a relationship. That way, like it would have been really great for them to sort of leave together, and we would have sort of felt that. Whereas
Yeah.
even this, it just sort of feels sort of tacked on. We don't even actually see them leave together. Like, does Jake even know that Mallory's coming to the airport? Yeah, it's just
Right.
sort of it's a little bit disappointing because there was time to do it.
Mhm. Yeah, because there was, like, Mallory and the redheaded kid, there was Mallory and Jeremy for a little bit, like, teased, I guess. There was a bunch of different kind of plot lines, and I think you're right. I think that could have been a really fun moment to see, her arrive at the airport with.
Who doesn't love an
And
airport scene?
yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, I agree. I think that could have been really fun. But we did get a little bit of a moment with, so Jake, he says, "I've always been smart, you just never noticed it." And,
Mhm,
and then, um, that Jake kind of opens her eyes to, there's more that she can be doing than managing Maggie's,
mhm.
and, "Why don't you come see the world?" And evidently everybody in Heartland can drop tickets to Europe at a moment's notice. Feels like a thing that, I guess you're saving up your money, you're ready to go.
Yeah, well, I suppose if she's not going to college, she might have some money
Yeah,
for a year
that's
or
right.
whatever.
But then, so Jack goes to talk to Tim, and they're still partners, and he says, "We need to get rid of the sheep, and why don't you bring them over to your land?" And he's like, "This is prime cattle land, I wouldn't want a bunch of sheep." And then I was like, "I hate sheep."
Oh my god. It feels like they just had this storyline so we could watch these two like bicker.
But I have to say, these 3 episodes were way better for Tim than the previous 3. Would you agree? Like, he
Yeah.
was tolerable in these episodes.
I mean, I like this like Tim and Jack dynamic where it's like they just sort of get on each other's nerves, but they
Yeah.
they obviously like being around each other. Like I think it definitely helps Jack in terms of like Tim's probably the only person that doesn't treat him with kid gloves, whereas
Yeah,
everyone else is sort of really careful around him. And that's the dynamic. It's when it gets like it crosses a line and it gets really like aggressive and like
yeah.
really mean. That's when I
Well,
don't like it, but this stuff is good.
yeah. And I think whenever Tim gets in the like relationship storylines, it's rough. Like with Janice and with Miranda, both of those plot lines were terrible.
Sorry, you cut out for a second there.
Oh, just with both Miranda and Janice, both those plot lines with Tim were terrible.
Oh god, yeah. Terrible. Terrible
Yeah,
doesn't cut it.
that's right. So maybe we just keep him making dollhouses for Katie. Well, we're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming up next. Um, anyway, so then we have uh, that Amy wants to herd out the sheep, and so they end up taking Nicole with them to herd the sheep.
Mhm.
And I think if this is really what maybe you're like her second, third time ever riding a horse, this is a lot to expect out of a person.
Seriously, yeah.
Imagine. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I mean, she signed up for an experience. She certainly got one.
Yeah. And she would be so sore after that. I mean, when you ride, if you're not used to riding horses, it hurt.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. And she's not
Yeah,
even
you
like
feel
on
it.
a trail. She's not even on a trail. Like
Yeah.
it's like open fields of like uneven fields. Like, yeah,
Yeah. I'm not sure why Lou couldn't just take her on a simple ride.
yeah. Or Lou goes and helps Amy and has Nicole do something else. Like,
Yeah. Like it was, but it was kind of funny. I mean, it's
yeah,
true. It's just you're getting the real Western experience, and that's definitely true. City Slickers, Heartland. It is. And then we have Katie swallowing a penny. And one thing I was thinking about when watching these episodes is I like the fact that Heartland isn't afraid to have its male characters be maternal and nurturing and sweet, like to have sort of maybe traditionally feminine qualities that
mhm,
you don't always see in shows, especially about cowboys. And, like I appreciate how non machismo the characters are. They're fine watching Katie. They're fine, doing the things uh that you wouldn't necessarily always see male characters in shows like this do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think if you take some of Tim's behavior out of it and
Hmm.
think if there's any other characters, but for the majority of the male characters, like there's not an ounce of like like any of that sort of masculine toxic
Hmm.
stuff. Like it's just not there. Like
Right.
Ty's like super encouraging of like Amy. He's not jealous.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's like all through the show, and that's sort of what I look for in TV shows these days. Like, I mean, I'm loving like most of the original shows on Disney Plus for that
Yeah.
reason. I mean, they're all kid shows, but when you watch something like I don't know the new Mighty Duck show or the new High School Musical show, like they're
Yeah.
all sweet kids. And when you watch something like I liked the first season of Glee, but that became such a mean show.
Which show?
But Glee,
Oh, Glee. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. Agree.
yeah, it became such a mean show where it just became sort of barbs towards each other. Whereas
Hmm.
these shows are more sort of about being a good friend, being a good brother, being like that's what I look for in TV these days. Like there's enough there's enough awful stuff out there. Like it's nice to have a show like Heartland where you can tune in and you know that the people, male or female, are just going to
Hmm.
do the best for everyone around them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just nice to see a character like Jack taking care of Katie such a sweet way and being such like the women are, except for with Tim, you're right, but the women are respected
Yeah.
and the men are allowed to be maternal. So they kind of freak out a little bit. But then they call emergency services and they're like, it'll be fine. Thanks with Katie. So that was kind of funny. And then we find out that Nicole is being investigated by the SEC, that she has been fired. So that is part of the reason why she decided to come to the ranch. So, and she falls off of the horse at one point and then gets back on, and she says, getting back on the horse made me realize I can handle anything. So
She really took that metaphor and ran with it.
she really did. And she says, it made me realize how to do a hard day's work. I wish you were hiring me instead of Mallory. So she wants to be the manager of Maggie's. It does
Yeah.
seem like a major step down from
Yeah.
whatever corporate job
Mm,
he was doing.
yeah. And it's not just like she's like moving her whole life. That's why it seemed such a like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like
If
pack
you're
up her
getting
whole
out of
life.
that evil big city, I mean, come on.
True. True. Very true. She's probably seen a Hallmark movie.
So then I thought it was really sweet when you have that little moment between Georgie and Amy where she talks about she gets too attached to the horses.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a
And
good moment.
yeah, and says you get to say hello as often as you say goodbye. It balances out.
Yeah, I
That
like
was
sort of
cute.
that they've moved Amy into this like mentor sort of role.
Yeah.
And it feels like I wish we kind of got more of that with her and Mallory, but we do have it with her and Georgie, and it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you have Jack and Mallory talking at the diner, and says, "What if I do something stupid I'm going to regret?" And then he says, "Everyone has regrets when you realize at my age is what you regret is the things you don't do." So that was cute because they always had a great relationship. I always loved Mallory and Jack, especially her trying to get him to eat right and things like that. It was always really funny scenes.
Yeah.
And he says, "What are you doing serving me coffee? Get on the move. Get on with it." And she says, "I'm going to miss you most of all."
Oh God,
That
that
was
killed me.
cute. Yeah. And then we find out the penny is dropped. And then they hold out the signs, "Goodbye, Mallory." So that was cute.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess maybe I liked this a little more than it seems like you did, but it was, like I said, it's kind of weird to have a major character go out on the 4th episode of the season, but
Yeah.
I love Mallory, and it was really fun to get to talk to Jessica last year. So I don't know. I give this I'll give it a 7. What about you?
Yeah, I'll give it the same. It's not that I disliked it. I just wanted a little more.
Mm,
Particularly from Mallory. Like I love the Amy sort of helping the horse in the foal. So
yeah,
yeah, I would say the same.
yeah. And some beautiful cinematography on this one. I mean, with the way they were catching that sheep drive was very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to get more impressive as we start to see the more sort of drone shots come into the show as it goes.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So the next episode is called Thread the Needle, and it's Amy teams up with the RCMP to help a rider and his horse become one. Yet the constable has a problem that he needs to overcome before he can conquer his lifelong dream.
Mm.
So this we get another new activity for the horses that I've never heard of before this episode. The what they call it? They said it was the
Oh, they had a name for it, didn't they?
yeah
I just called it like the horse parade.
yeah.
I know
Well, at
it's
first I thought it was military, and then I
yeah, I
guess
did
it's
same, yeah.
but a musical is for the musical ride. They called it and
I mean, I've sort of seen some of this sort of stuff just because, like, I mean, we have parades like this all the time on TV for like multiple events for like the royal family, like constantly,
mm,
especially in the summer. And I know Edinburgh, in Scotland has a lot of sort of horse parades, throughout the summer. But yeah, I've never actually like seen one sort of on a show like this before.
yeah
It's just and it's always sort of military style as well. So the ones that I've seen on TV.
yeah yeah I've never seen anything quite like what they were doing here, but those horses were beautiful. They were gorgeous. These dark uh horses. I don't know, just the way they were groomed, everything was they were really pretty.
Hmm.
hmm And there's a problem with this one constable and his horse. I think his name was Brian, I think. Brian, yeah. And it turns out that Brian has MS. So he's
Yeah.
getting the I don't know what's the proper term, but the shakes that they have, and he has a hard time dealing with it, and then that affects the horse.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's about how to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like this was such a classic Heartland episode.
hmm
Like everything about this episode, particularly Amy's storyline with the constable, it felt like such a classic episode. And it was handled really well, and it was really, really sweet at the end as well with his grandma. So yeah, I loved this whole relationship.
Yeah, it was good. I didn't understand what his problem was. Like he was, I mean, I guess he just was really like one of those strict military types or whatever. But yeah, he was pretty tough.
Yeah, I think he just feels like he's messing up constantly and doesn't realize it's a medical thing.
Yeah.
And I would
Yeah.
have liked them to have like a moment of like him sort of acknowledging that he now knows that it's a medical thing. Um, because I don't think that happens.
Mhm. Well, and it's not until Dr. Trisha sees what's happening, and she's the one that realizes that it's MS, and what Brian isn't telling them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we also have Jeff, the brother of Georgie, back. What do we think of Jeff?
I liked Jeff in the beginning. I feel like this episode they sort of hit the reset button a little bit with him. And I feel like they should have maybe just because he comes in as sort of a bit of a blowhard in sort of the previous episodes, sort of waving all his money around and you know having a bit of an attitude. And I feel like he sort of comes in and does that again. It would have been
Mm,
nice for them to just sort of build their relationship. Um, because I think it does
Yeah.
get to like a really good point. It's just we had to put up with this Jeff and Cassandra stuff in the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't understand why Ty tells Jeff that Cassandra likes fast cars. Like,
Yeah,
what was Ty trying to do there?
yeah. I don't know if he was trying to like annoy Jeff or annoy Cassandra or both. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so Jeff flirts with Cassandra. Cassandra, it doesn't make sense why Cassandra would go and apply for a job at Heartland Dude Ranch.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Like, and
That
she's
makes no
like,
sense.
"You work here?" And it's like,
Of course, like
of course somebody from Heartland works there. Why would you even like it made that part that made no sense, but whatever. So she submits for the job to help with Lou. Lou is so desperate because she's overwhelmed at the Dude Ranch, and she needs help. And I guess help is hard to find in Hudson these days, evidently, for both the
yeah, well,
veterinary clinic and for Lou.
yeah. It's almost like having like multiple jobs at one time wasn't the best idea. Like buying a diner and having all of our other businesses.
Yeah, especially when your husband is working in Calgary. It's probably a
Yeah,
bad idea.
yeah. And the next episode, I think she says he's on a flight to Dubai, and I'm like, oh my god, is he
Yeah.
ever like so frustrating?
Yeah. And then also we have on this episode that Jack is wanting to bale the hay that or pick up the bales of hay, whatever. He wants to work with the hay. And
Yes.
Lou isn't a fan of this idea because she thinks it's too much, it's too strenuous. And so at a certain point, she's even hiding the hitch pin for his trailer so he can't go. And he keeps missing the doctor's appointments though, so you can kind of understand a little bit of where she's coming from,
Mhm.
but at a certain point, you got to let the man get the hay.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And Trish does actually point out like he is healthy, he has recovered, and he can't
Yeah,
keep treating him like he's about to have another heart issue or anything like that when he is you know by all accounts fully recovered.
yeah. And I don't know, I just feel like that you also have to take into account like mental health, and if he's not happy, he's going to that will affect his physical health too. So you have to let him do the things that will make him happy within reason. It's not like he's like bungee jumping or something like that.
And you can't blame him, like he has no help at the ranch.
You know,
Like Ty doesn't work there, Caleb's nowhere to be found, like
right,
he's pretty much doing it all on his own.
right. Yeah. And then we also have this scene that with then you have Jeff, then you have Georgie making pancakes for Jeff, chocolate banana pancakes, which looked delicious. And I couldn't believe that he wouldn't even like take a
Yeah,
bite at all.
yeah, seriously.
Like,
Like craziness.
if anybody makes me pancakes, it's the happiest day of my life. Like I love when people make me breakfast because I usually am like bad and I either don't eat breakfast or I eat just like toast. So if somebody actually makes me like a real breakfast, like that's so nice. So you think he could just like take 5 seconds and at least try a bite? I don't
Yeah,
know. That was rude.
yeah, yeah. That was sort of Jeff in this episode, rude.
Yeah. So he gets what was that, a Ferrari or something like that that he
He,
gets?
I don't,
He
I don't
rents?
know cars. I do not know cars. I just
Oh,
know that it's a fast car.
yeah, I think it was. I think it had the I don't know cars very much either, but he gets a fancy car, sports car, and then Cassandra drives off in it. You have Dr. Tricia saying you need to stop putting limits on what he can do. He's a strong, energetic, virile man. And then they're like, what's virile? That was funny. The whole conversation was funny. And so
I don't know how many episodes Trish is in, but like it feels like maybe she's meant to be like a love interest for Jack.
I kind of wondered about that.
I'm
Like,
not sure.
is Lisa gone? Like, is she not on this season?
Yeah, I do know that, you know, she does come back. I just don't know when that is.
Yeah. So then we have Jeff saying, I'm not good at being a big brother. And then Jack gets the horse and cart for the hang. And this was a pretty beautiful scene. The whole haying scene was very well filmed. And then the whole sort of water fight.
Yeah.
That was all very good.
Yeah, that's so good.
And so then they get a successful test ride for Brian because Amy gets his saddle with a cushion and gets it set up so that he can deal with the shakes. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
So we also have Scott decides he's going to rehire Cassandra. And did you buy that?
I didn't buy anyone like inviting Cassandra back into their lives again. Like it felt kind of weird that Lou would hire her. It felt weird that her back. Like, is he meant to just sort of trust her? Like, and it was sort of a lot to ask of Ty to like work with her again. Especially when Ty was the one that, you know, really got the brunt of it. You know, he's the one that lost his job. Like, felt like it was something that Scott should maybe ask Ty before he did it. But yeah, it felt kind of like
there's really nobody else that you could hire. I mean,
I'm sure there's like a ton of vet students that would love the job.
Exactly. So this was a pretty good episode, I thought. I'd give it as an 8.
Yeah, I would say the same. It was a very good standard Heartland episode. Everything it does is done well.
Yeah. So then our last episode is called Now or Never, and this Tim and Jack disagree over dollhouse for Lou's daughter. Georgie has high hopes for becoming a trick writer. And so this episode, we get the return of the trick writer, the Sandra, and she's the one who had been performing with her sister, but then her sister passed away, and she came to Heartland because her horse was Chaplain was acting up, and it turned out the Chaplain missed doing the trick riding, and so that was a pretty good episode. And now she's back, and Sandra is a ballet teacher / trick writer. And the big kind of thrust of this episode is that Lou wants Georgie to take ballet lessons, and she's not having any of it.
I don't blame her. I mean, what is Lou thinking? Like, she knows Georgie at this point.
Yeah.
She loves farm life. I'm not saying that you can't love both, but she hasn't shown any sort of interest in performing arts of any kind, unless it's on a horse.
Our friend, the ice cream truck is back.
Yes.
If people don't know, this is something we've had on a number of episodes.
Oh, recurring. I
One of
think if
these
we
days
record,
you'll have to go. One of these days you have to go and actually get an ice cream.
yeah, it's actually kind of the perfect day. It's so hot. I think if we record like 6 p.m. my time, like we're always going to catch it.
But anyway, so yes, it's silly. I mean, I don't know any parent that's like, I want my kids to do more activities. Like it's life is so busy, especially since she's already has like a major commitment doing the jumping on Phoenix. The idea that she would want another commitment seems a little much, but it was pretty funny and cute, and Alicia did a great job with those scenes with her like not wanting to be in ballet.
I love that she just wore her hoodie the entire time.
Yeah, I know. That's funny. She's like, I'm not taking this off. And Georgie sees Sandra doing the trick riding. She says, forget ballet. That's what I want to do.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, that trick riding is pretty impressive.
yeah, yeah. It's
I don't
very
know.
impressive.
It's one of those things where you think, how do people not die? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
because I always think about that when I'm watching the Olympics of certain sports, like these like luge and stuff like that, where people are flying at like super high. It's like, how do you practice? Like, because
Hmm.
you're gonna fall a lot in practice, and how do you not die? Like ski jumping is another one. Like if you're going like 7-foot story, like how do you kind of make it? Like how do you just I don't know, amazing to me. These people that do these things. And that's certainly one of them with being on the side of a horse going so fast, doing these tricks. It's very impressive and they make it look seamless.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and whoever they've got like doing the stunts and stuff is like you wouldn't be able to
Very
tell the
good.
difference. Yeah, very good match
Yeah,
as well.
they did. Yeah, agreed. And so then Lou is not sure about this idea of trick writing lessons. And Amy tells her you need to prove it to her that you're serious. And then uh, Jeff gets a motorcycle and he's trying to impress Sandra, but also it feels like also trying to be competitive with Ty.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
Ty does not care. Like he's just like, what are you doing?
yeah. He's so sort of past all of the like competitive stuff. Like he used to be like that with Caleb until they
Hmm.
became friends. But yeah, I feel like Ty's just he's a bit of a grown up now.
Yeah. And so then we have Tim and Jack fighting over the dollhouse that I guess they were going to make it for Amy, but it never got finished. And now they're going to work on it for Katie. That was a really cute plot line. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm.
Um, I love that Ty sort of grown up and grown past it, but it feels like whenever Tim and Jack are together, like it's immediately a competitive thing. Like they can't even just build a nice thing; they've got to like compete about it.
Yeah. Also, we find out that Tim helped with the purchase of the diner as a silent investor. He had told Peter, but he
Hmm.
didn't tell Lou. And so Jack is upset about this at first. And I always think it's a weird plot point. This is something Chesapeake Shores does a bunch. Is that the whole like, how dare you help me get a loan? Like I don't know. I mean, I'd be excited. Like I don't know. There's some of these shows where they act like that's like such an affront. Like
Yeah, it feels like a running theme in Hallmark movies as
yeah,
well. Like,
yeah,
or someone try to help someone with something like massive, it's like
yeah.
it's such an affront.
Like yeah, like Trace's parents help him get a loan. And then also the I forget her name all of a sudden, Jess, I think it's Jess. Her parents help her get loans. And it's in both cases they're like, how dare you? It's like people can help me get loans all they want. Like I'm fine with it. like I get the whole like pride of home ownership and everything like that, but it, even just small help, like you just, or almost everybody has some kind of help to kind of get them off the ground and help support them in some way, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like you're not like less of a person because you had help
Yeah.
anyway. Uh but I did like the fact that when Tim tells Lou, Lou was just like, "Thank you for believing me." That was cute.
Hmm. Yeah.
Good
Yeah. It
job,
was
Lou.
such a like. I feel like seasons ago they probably would have played it a completely different way. And I feel like Lou is in such a hectic point where she's got all these different things going on.
Yeah.
I feel like any help is greatly appreciated at this point with Lou.
So Ty and Jeff get in this race, and considering that not that long ago Ty was in a major accident where he almost died, I think I would be very hesitant to be
On a
on
bike.
this reckless racing on a bike.
Yeah, craziness.
And they are able to get Chaplin to recover, and his horses are like people. Sometimes they get bored doing the same things over and over again.
Hmm.
So gotta fix the routine and make it more interesting for Chaplin. And
Yeah.
Sandra does tell Georgie she should do ballet to help
Hmm.
her. And then also Georgie tries to do the tricks by herself and gets all bruised up. And Amy agrees not to tell, but I would think that Lou would notice somehow. She would see that. I mean, it was pretty big bruises.
Yeah, yeah. And it
Maybe
felt
she's
like even from the beginning of the episode we were just waiting on Georgie getting on that horse.
yeah.
But yeah. She's
And
very lucky.
Amy makes a good point when she says, like, she's a professional. She knows what she's doing. She's not gonna let Georgie get hurt.
Hmm.
She's gonna be careful
Yeah,
as
and I like
opposed
that
to
Amy was sort of deferred to Lou as well. Like she wasn't getting involved. She was like,
Mhm.
no, I'm not, I'm just your coach. I'm not the decision maker. If you can hear squeaking in the background, that's my puppy. I apologize.
It's okay, no problem. So Ty says to Jeff, I was hoping you'd stick around. Jeff's not sure he's needed there, but he decides to stay. And so that's very happy for, I mean, he crashes first,
Uh-huh.
but it turns out he's okay. And then you have them giving Katie the dollhouse. That was really cute. So then they, he says, "What if we never have the chance to go riding again? What if we all have? What if we all have all the time in the world? What if we don't?" So that's what Georgie says to uh, to Jeff. That what about let's take this moment and go for a ride and not wait. And the end of this episode, Amy and Ty are very flirty.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Do you want to come over to my trailer?" Da, da, da. And I'm still very confused
Yeah. I feel like
about
this
their
is all
relationship.
I feel like this is all they're gonna give us, and this is their way to like kind of tell us where they are without actually telling us.
Yeah.
I just feel like they're never going to actually see it. It's so weird. It's so
Like
weird.
you would think that they would want to make that like a story plot because it's like a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah,
Like,
especially if like, I mean, I know it's more of a like family ensemble show, but the first couple of seasons felt like a teen show. And that's always a topic in multiple topics in a teen show. Um, yeah, it feels
yeah,
very strange.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just weird. I mean, they've been to Vegas together. They've been on trips together. Like the idea that they aren't intimate is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they still haven't, they like teased it a lot,
Yeah.
but
And I feel like maybe, obviously we don't know because we're sort of going back, but it feels like maybe that's in a response to people asking the same things. And they'd like drop this scene in and just make it even more confusing.
yeah, I don't know. It's weird. So uh, I would just think that it would be a good episode to have, like, to have an episode about their first time like that. Like, you don't have to be gratuitous or gross. Like, you could make it a sweet story,
Huh? Totally.
I would think.
Um,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's a little, or like the fact, or make them waiting until marriage or whatever, which is obviously, a valid choice.
Yeah.
Like, make that a story, and like make that a plot about why they're doing that, or
Yeah. I feel like maybe Seventh Heaven or a show like that, like, I feel like they definitely had episodes where, that was the plot
oh yeah,
with the
definitely.
kids. Yeah, I'm
Like
sure they must have.
Mary or
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, I just feel like that's an important part of like human life. Like, if you're gonna
Yeah.
have this
Yeah.
family, like, you either talk about the fact that you're not, or talk about the fact that you are. One or the other. I feel like needs to
Yeah, pick
happen.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, it's weird. But
Yeah.
this was a pretty good episode, and I
Mhm.
appreciated the fact that uh that we didn't have anybody being I mean, I guess Jeff was kind of a jerk, but everybody, it was a pretty nice, sweet episode.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Mhm. So
We
what
got a
would you
good
give this
bunch of
one?
episodes. Yeah, I would say 7.5.
1.5. All right, I can agree. So there we go. Let us know what you would give these 3 episodes if you're listening. We would really appreciate it. And keep coming with those comments. Maybe we'll keep reading some. We get good ones on the show, because it's really helpful and really fun.
Yeah.
So
Helps
we
us.
appreciate it. Yes. And so Michelle, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. And also make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast all over social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is a lot of fun, and we sure appreciate that support. And we have our merch store, which has some Heartland inspired merch. Take a look over there. All that information is in the description. So we sure appreciate that support. And thanks so much, everybody. And we'll talk to you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.